and for whatever reason, grabbed it out of my hand and threw it on top of the roof of the of our elementary school. I bet you it's been tarred over about 100 times on one of those flat roofs.
I bet you if it wasn't, it would be worth something.
I bet you it would. It sits atop St. John the Baptist, Kenmore, New York. Somebody wants to go on top of the building there. It should be there still to this day.
It's the Scott and Allie Not for Air podcast. The rules are gone. The shirt is untucked. Here's Scott and Allie.
Welcome to another Scott and Allie Not for Air podcast. All right, now you know the routine. Please like, please subscribe, please share with your friends. Help us continue to, do whatever the hell we do.
To follow the army.
Follow the army. Right. Become part of the world's most dangerous audience.
Yes, join the family. Last week at the end of our episode, I said I was going to tell you about an I'm sorry. And you had said, oh my gosh, you're getting all these I'm sorries all of a sudden.
This has been a year for you. You got one. Oh, what was the first one you got? It was from a high school student.
It was somebody who was in my neighborhood. And she had kind of picked on me and bullied me when we were younger.
Oh, yeah.
And
I got a crazy story about somebody doing that.
Oh, okay. And she had reached out to my brother first and said, I wanted to apologize to your sister for how I treated her. And my brother had asked me, well, what do you want to do? And I said, just tell her it's okay. Like, no big deal at all.
Yeah.
And then apparently he forgot, because then a couple weeks ago, or about, I don't know, what has it been, like a month or two, she reached out to me and said, I told your brother that I wanted to say I'm sorry for smashing flowers on your shirt and whatever else she did to bully me. Even saying, do you even remember me? I do. And then she apologized, and we went back and forth a couple times. So that was a really big apology.
That was the first one. Now, the year of apologies continues. So what's this one?
Okay. Now, this was the beginning of Pride. I was doing an event at the Quincy. It was a Pride bingo, and one of our coworkers was supposed to help me. He was getting paid to kind of like be my assistant for the night.
Yeah.
What he would be doing is checking people in, selling them extra bingo cards for charity and things like that. Whatever help I needed, because it was pretty much me and the drag queen. It was kind of a one-man show, and it was a sold-out event, and I just needed a little bit of assistance. That way there wasn't a huge line for whatever people needed, whether it was bingo cards or admission or whatever. So right before this event, I had texted him and I said, hey, I'm just checking in with you. I'll see you at like 4 or 5 or something like that for the event. And then he texted me and said, oh, I pulled my back out. I ate 2 edibles. I'm too high. I can't come to work.
Should have stopped and pulled the back out. That actually sold me as a valid reason not to be somewhere.
Right. So I was livid, because then at my event, luckily our listeners are awesome, but luckily at my event, I had a huge line. It's not that things were going so wrong, but they weren't going right. Now, the regular consumer of the event, I don't know if they realized all the things that kept getting in my way. There was just like little bumps in the road. And that's great that nobody knew. But in my mind, I'm going, if he was here, then this really would have helped me have a fluid night. Plus, in my mind, Scott, I'm one of those people that if you're doing something like today, you have a live broadcast somewhere. So I was like, oh, is your car ready? Like, I would help you pack your car.
Sure.
Whatever anybody needed. Yesterday, our GM, he said, hey, I'm looking for some information about this particular client. I think that you would have something that I could utilize, some information. So I was like, okay, let me go. It's this web-based program we have. I said, let me go run the report. Let me see when they advertise. So basically what I'm saying is like, I am going to help anyone in this building, anywhere, anytime, for the most part. So this really just chapped my butthole because I'm like, nobody stepped in to help me. Now, Scott didn't know this was going on. I could have called you and said, like, can you come up here or whatever.
Well, sure.
So that's where it was left. And it was left just at that. A couple weeks later, so this is an employee we don't see all that often. A couple weeks later, and I'm still kind of fuming about it.
When you get inconvenienced, like that, and it's unexpected, and there is one reason behind it, but then, the whole high thing, yeah.
Well, and the other thing that, listeners didn't know was the person who was supposed to be providing the winning item. So if you won a game in New York State, we can't do it through cash. So we were doing it through games like, the person didn't show up who had the prizes, and then this guy didn't show up who was going to help me. So I just kept running into a bunch of roadblocks, and it was a really frustrating night. Well, then I saw the one who didn't show up because he was high and pulled his back out. I saw him last week in the kitchen. And like I said, we don't see him all that often. I saw him in the kitchen and he was like, oh my God. Hi, how are you? I just wanted to say I'm really sorry for that. He's like, how embarrassing, blah, blah, blah. I still was kind of puckered about it. And I don't know. I don't think that I gave really the best response. I was just like, okay. I didn't say that's okay. I didn't say
well, I kind of like sometimes the okay, because that puts somebody on notice to let's not let that happen again. Because if you say it's okay, then they're going to imply that then you get the feeling of, well, I must not have really inconvenienced the person. Now, you said right out, you were able to maintain, you were able to get things done. It was just the headache in the moment, which I get. I rather like the okay. I really do.
And here's the difference between those two I'm sorry's. The first one that I got from the childhood person in my neighborhood, that is an I'm sorry. She grew up. She was young when she did the act to me. And I feel like she genuinely is sorry. Not that I don't feel like this person is sorry too, but I was more than willing to accept her apology and say, yes, I totally understand. I did stupid things when I was young. I still do stupid things that I say I'm sorry for. But with him, I didn't think that I needed to say, oh, no problem. I wasn't going to.
Yeah, no, it's not no problem, and it's not okay, like that's okay. By saying okay,
I said,
you've
okay.
said, I appreciate what you've said. If it were me and receiving the okay, I would hear, all right, I probably should not allow something like that to happen again. Or if it did, if the exact same scenario was playing out all over again, I would make sure in advance to say, I have a problem. Please understand, I'm not trying to inconvenience you. Not, I threw my back out and I got high. No, that's not, because what you've done with an I'm sorry like that is you are essentially minimizing your inconvenience. Things are going to happen. People are going to get in situations. I mean, was it inconvenient that he threw his back out that day? Yes. But that is something you could absolutely look at and go, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
It can happen to anybody. And for people that it does happen to, I fortunately don't have back problems. Thank God.
Right.
Your dad, you've told me stories over the years. Your dad has been laid out hard as a carp on the kitchen floor for hours because he's thrown his back out. It can be debilitating.
Yes.
It is the flippant nature of trying to justify what it was. I mean, it needed to be just a simple, I apologize. Something did happen to me. I realized it inconvenienced you. And for that, I will attempt to do better next time. And if something ever happens that's not that's out of my control, I will make sure you're aware with as much notice as possible. That apology would probably garner you to go, well, thank you very much. I appreciate you understanding where I was coming from on it. Because, it's nice. It's nice that they wanted to make a gesture of letting you know that they kind of realized that they were wrong, but they only kind of realized they were wrong. So you help them see the remainder of the light. I do not have a problem with your reaction.
And I think that one of the reasons why I could never do retail or restaurant again is because of how many people
tell people to fuck right off.
But how many people call off or put your other employees in situations where it makes it too tight and makes the whole situation uncomfortable.
Well, nobody's considerate about anybody anymore in situations. I think in this case,
it doesn't happen to us all that often.
No.
Think about it. How many times has somebody not shown up for a work thing that we've done?
It's rare.
It's so rare. And that's why
there are times I wish they wouldn't, but that's here nor there.
I think that's why that also really frustrated me. I mean, there was more than one frustration about that day, but that was the end result of me going, I'm not going to say that this is okay.
No,
'cause it's
well,
not okay.
it's not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay that you had a personal, we'll call it incident.
Yeah.
It's the way they attempted to justify it with the whole thing. And, again, if you would have known that they were in utter agony, they could not move, they were going to be useless to you, you probably would have said, you know what? We're good. I'll figure out a way to make it work and go from there. It was the added, it took it down. It took it away. I'm sorry. It really did.
Yeah. So you had said something about, I mentioned the bullying thing from when I was younger, and you're like, oh, I have a story about that.
Oh my God.
And then I have to tell you why I think I've definitely nailed guys and gifts, but hold on.
Okay. So you had said that the girl that bullied you when you were young, much younger. Now, I am not making light of bullying in any way, shape, or form. Bullying does happen. It comes in lots of different forms.
Yes.
I mean, we could all probably look at a point in our lives, everyone, where either, and you could apply it one of a couple ways. There's a couple mindsets. There are genuine bullies that make someone's life a miserable hell every single day, day in and day out. And they're brutally insecure people that are trying to find a justification for their own existence on the planet by ruining you. That is a truly awful bully. I look at when I was growing up. All right, Scott used to wear Coke bottle glasses, and I was the nerdy kid, and I was a little bit of easy prey, but it wasn't every day. It wasn't every day that I was
good.
What's that?
I said that's good.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't an everyday. I mean, yeah, I could probably categorize myself in the sense of, oh yeah, I got bullied once in a while. Maybe there was a couple kids, but I always look back on those days and I think to myself, well, maybe bringing the Darth Vader action figure, which ended up on the roof of St. John the Baptist School in Kenmore, New York, by Paul Carrick, probably wasn't the best move that day by me bringing it.
Paul Carrick.
But he wasn't a dick every day. You know what I mean? Like, it was okay.
He didn't push you in the lockers every day.
No.
He didn't give you swirlies every day.
No, not every single day. Now, I do know there are some people that struggle with that on much different levels. There's different levels from it. And
especially the online stuff.
Oh.
I'm sorry, just to interject here. I do not envy you raising young kids. It is, and I hope nothing ever happens to them as far as them getting bullied, especially online. Girls are such bitches.
You know what, though? I have an interesting, I'll tell you the story about the childhood bullying in a second, kind of bullying. And that's why I was setting it up the way that I was.
Yeah.
And I'll come right back to that. I feel like I have an interesting outlook when it comes to what could happen online.
Okay.
So I'm going to be, it's funny we went down this path. So being in entertainment field, and we are out there, we have social media pages for specifically our show. We have social media pages for the stations we're on. We have social media pages for ourselves. You and I have been, and I'm going to not use the term bullied, but we have been the victims of different things over the years. And some of them,
hate.
Well, yes, but there's a common denominator to 98% of the things that have happened to us over the years. And it doesn't happen often, but on occasion it does. But the common denominator to 98% of what had happened were people that actually didn't hear a segment or didn't hear it in person or live, or it was the telephone game. Remember the old game where you start out here, Susie broke up with Bob. 20 calls later, Susie's a rotten whore, slept around with 5 people. Bob had his wiener lobbed off. You're like, wait, all they did was break up.
Yes.
So we have been victims of this many times over. And I will tell you, I used to get brutally affected by people making comments, especially when either they don't know me or worse than anything, putting words in my mouth. I mean, listen, I got enough coming out of my mouth. You don't need to put words coming in my mouth. You know, keep your words out my mouth. So those are the things that really used to bother the crap out of me. And then I don't know if it was an effect of maturing along with what I had to figure out society was really like and going, you didn't listen. You didn't hear it. You don't know. Somebody told you something they thought they heard. Also, it doesn't hurt that we record a whole lot of segments of our show, so I can go back and know exactly what I said.
Yes, that
Not
does
everything,
help.
but a lot. It does help. And there's been times where that's actually settled you and I on a personal level to go, see, I knew it. I knew we didn't.
Yep.
And, so, and some people just like to start shitstorms. So having that in my pocket of experience is an extremely useful tool when it comes to the kids getting older and they get more interactive online. Now, there's another piece to this puzzle. I'm also the product of a different generation of, I'm going to be honest with you, most people with kids my age are not Gen Xers. Most people, because I have a 10 and a 5-year-old. Well, I have a 23-year-old too. Trust me, she can handle herself quite well. But the younger ones, being a product of a different era. Remember, I remember the internet starting. I've come up with everything from the internet taking off to
remembers the light bulb even being invented.
Oh my God, I remember. Yeah, lead pencils for Christ's sake, typewriters. Never mind. So at any rate, I had a lot of life before the digital takeover. Okay, so that's that. There's something to that. There's a life experience that you get being, I'm gonna say, disconnected. Go outside and play, kids. That sort of mentality.
Well, yeah, because I think you probably got some thicker skin, or at least a foundation, because it was all in your face.
Well, there was. And this ties into, like I said, could I categorize myself when I was younger of being bullied? At times. I wouldn't categorize myself as serially being bullied.
Right.
And that's where I go with the girl that apologized to you. Oh, so finishing off the thing about the digital. So I've got an interesting insight. Not being an millennial or elder millennial age group, having all this tech and surviving on it day to day, I got a little slightly different outlook that I might be able to, and I won't know until a situation arises. I really won't. Until a specific thing happens, I can't tell you how I would handle it. But between these two areas, it's an interesting dynamic to be able to say, sometimes people are, I remember the era you could shut it off. Yep. And you could walk away.
Yep.
And a lot of times today we get caught up in things. Now, I'm not saying the answer to everything is just shut it off and walk away. No, there's, again, until a situation arises, I'm sure one will at some point. I just look at, how can I combine these two sets of life experiences and put them together to try to help if needed, when needed. So that's that. Now back to the kid bullying thing.
Yes.
So I'm going to bet it was not serial bullying for you when you were a kid either.
No, it was not.
Probably one day you were playing
isolated incidences.
Yeah. One day you were playing great in the pool, and then a week later she's rubbing, marigolds in your face.
Yep.
Okay. So whatever the insecurities were, I do always have to ask this question. Are you apologizing because you want to make a wrong right, or are you apologizing because you want to make yourself feel better?
You want me to answer as to what I think she was doing?
Sure. I mean, everybody has their own answer. You can't really answer for her.
I think she was doing both. And also she had talked about her kids in her message to me and saying that she wanted to teach her kids that you can make a mistake here in your life at point A, but then make it right at point B. And so I think two things were going on. I think she was trying to teach her kids a lesson, which is great because that's what you want to do, right? You're going to do the same thing for your kids. You're probably going to say, hey, Gavin and Lydia, I messed up when I was even 18 or whatever. And here's how I changed the course of my life. I made sure I didn't make that same mistake. So I think that is something that I'm fine with her using it. Do I think that she's going through some sort of program? I do. I think like an AA type program or something. And multiple people that I've told about this, I have said this, and they said one of the things about the programs usually is to make some wrongs right.
It's actually step 8. It's make amends to those that you have wronged, as long as you don't put those in harm's way.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that too. I love,
or without harming them too. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Sorry.
Right. I love that we actually were able to even reconnect for a minute, even if it's because it kind of made me internally look at something that I had almost forgotten about for a second, because sometimes I just feel like I'm just living life and going through motions that I forget to really look inside and go, what do I want out of this?
Well, I think it's very nice that you gave her some of your time today that she could do what she felt she needed to do. I think that was very nice, because the reality to it is you started out by saying, having your brother just go, yeah, tell her it's fine. No big deal. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But then when it came back again, which I'm so glad it did, it really made me internalize and think about how did I really feel about it, which I said on the air, but I mean, I'll say it again, is the lesson of redemption. And that's just something that I've always been taught since I was a young kid. We were taught in church, and, faith is such a big thing for me. So I thought, you know what? I would want the redemption in this situation. So I'm going to also give the redemption in this situation. So,
fair enough. I think you were in a situation where the wrongs that happen with that, and in your mind you, you've already had enough time over the years to process. On the grand scheme of things, they were very minor. 1 week you were in the pool playing nonstop, but all friends. A week later, she rubbed marigolds in your face.
All minor, but at the same time, and I think it sounds like it's similar with you, because yours wasn't serial bullying either.
Oh yeah, as a kid,
it was like mine was like multiple isolated incidences. Now there might have been repeated people, but it wasn't all the time. But that could have had an effect. It could have. But, and I said this on the air, and I said this in my apology to her too, was that I was lucky. I had a community around me. That was my family. That was some friends, but mainly it was like cousins and aunts who were really strong females. I got lucky in that situation.
Sure.
So that way, with her and her kids, maybe her kids don't have the community that I have, but she can at least give the message there. And I think that you would do the same too. I hope that Lydia and Gavin especially eventually will grow up and they can feel like they can come to me as the non-parent and to give them some sort of lesson in life, because I know that I have given it to my friend Chad, and I lived with his kids. If there was a lesson, and I'm not here to always give lessons, I just want them to feel like, oh, that's an adult, but I'm comfortable with her.
Sure.
And she can give me some, it's that like it takes a village type thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I hope that Gavin and Lydia one day, if they don't feel comfortable telling you, that they would feel comfortable telling me.
Well, the one thing,
and I would give them the best guidance that I feel like I could, and something that you would be okay with me saying.
Well, the one thing that I can guarantee you they'll be able to do is set up a live broadcast tent and Dad's table with the tablecloth or the radio station on it in lightning speed in weeks to come, months, years to come.
Wait, so let's go back to the kid with the Batman thing. Was there something else with that? Did I miss that?
The Batman thing.
The Batman, was it a Batman that was on the roof? The little...
Oh, no. Yeah, so I still, this is a vivid memory of me losing a Darth Vader action figure.
Vader, not
and
Batman.
Mind you, it was in the 70s, so finding Darth Vader in the 70s was not the easiest thing. And for whatever reason, grabbed it out of my hand and threw it on top of the roof of the of our elementary school. I bet you it's been tarred over about 100 times on one of those flat roofs.
I bet you if it wasn't, it would be worth something.
I bet you it would. It sits atop St. John the Baptist, Kenmore, New York. Somebody wants to go on top of the building there. It should be there still to this day. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm going to finish the bullying story because it relating into this. Oh, but I have to say one more thing about what I was getting at, where you were able to get, I think you were able to give her peace. She was able to get peace on the level of what you guys would label as bullying from back in the day.
Yeah.
I do also want to caution people on something else too. It's great that you can forgive, but sometimes the level of whatever it is, and you kind of proved it when it was the back thrown out and making not making light of it, but kind of sloughing off how it affected you by saying, well, I got really high too, so I can't drive. There is the level of, if it's a genuine, I am really sorry for my actions, and how many of those actions are there and the severity of them. I mean, you can't go around serial killing people going, I'm sorry.
Right.
Right. That just can't happen. So good for you. You got an apology. You accepted it. That's great. You feel good about it. She feels good about it. And that's wonderful. But you got to not be naive when it comes to how much you can forgive. You know what I mean? It's nice. And it's nice to hear, but it's not always something that that is just like, okay, it's now all 100% water on the bridge. How badly were you scarred? You know, and in your case, obviously not too much, but there are different levels of it. In your point,
Yes.
I think it's great the way it worked out for you. Now to finish this story, this is crazy. So 6059 told me a story, and I'm going to leave some of the details out of it because I don't want, if I don't get something exactly right, I don't want someone to feel bad, but also I don't necessarily want to point out exactly where it happened. But she lived on a street. Now, mind you, she's got a brother a few years, around her age. It was one of those families where all the kids were relatively around each other. So, and it was, and she grew up in a neighborhood where there was a lot of kids around. So, there'd be a lot of playing. Well, there was one kid in particular, little heavy set. And apparently used to tease them from time to time, and her and the rest of some of the other kids.
The heavyset kid was teasing everybody.
The heavyset kid,
Okay.
kind of one of those old Hollywood classic, kid bullies. I don't know if I'd use the full term bully, but I'd say if you think of old Hollywood, where there was the image of he was the portly kid, and now that's a whole different psychological bag of tricks of why he was probably doing what he did. But imagine that.
Because he was insecure.
Well,
Yeah.
This is where it gets really sad. And there is something to be said. Maybe it's never too late to make the apology, or at least attempt, again, depending on the level. She told me a story one time of when this boy was, I think, running after them. And you know how kids get. They all kind of splinter off sometimes at different points. And you get somebody left alone walking on the sidewalk. This kid fell and dropped dead. He had like a massive coronary. Yeah.
What?
And his mother came out. His mother came out, found him, obviously sobbing because of what happened. So
He must have been so young.
I would be shocked if it was more than 10 years old or whatever. So you hear about how sometimes kids, like very athletic kids, you think they're in the peak performance and they have a heart attack on the field and they're 14, 15. This kid, So, unfortunately, a lot of unfinished business there. So I am glad that you got something out of what what happened with you. I am also very glad that you heard the apology from the coworker, but yet firmly let them know those actions will not be tolerated again. However, the gesture has been heard.
Right. I thought you were going to say...
All's not good, but all's not bad anymore.
I thought you were going to say Karma's a bitch about that kid. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Well,
All right, that's nothing to joke about.
Yeah, obviously you think it, but then you also think to yourself, you're like, oh, God,
He was
with a
10.
kid.
He was stupid.
Yeah.
He didn't know.
Yeah, and would he have grown up to be that way? Who knows?
Probably not.
No,
probably not. Okay, I have one other thing before we go.
Oh my. This has been, wow, talk about a podcast that is filled up with a lot of analyzing.
Okay, now
and I got one more thing before we go too, because our friend Heather in Buffalo texted something that was on the show that we never read, but I want to read to you, and it was really funny.
Okay, let's end with it then.
Okay.
So I have this thing on, and I thought about you, your significant other, and me and my significant other. So Scott's always saying basically like for Father's Day or any occasion that there would be a gift that the men get gypped, right?
Well, I would say that, except God, I got to tell you, 6059 is an amazing gift giver. She wants to start a business of last minute gift giving. So like somebody could call her and be like, hey, let's not go as high as an anniversary. You got to go get your own jewelry. But like, let's say it's your birthday and I don't know, I've been on a business trip and I'm just getting back in town. I'm wiped out. It's 3 hours till I see you. You could call her. She'd literally have a basket ready. I think it's a great idea. She is an expert gift giver.
She's in the wrong business right now. But here's what I thought about, because I think that most men, when it comes to, they get to even Mother's Day and they get like real nervous about giving gifts or birthdays or anything like that. And then it comes to like Father's Day and they're like, oh, I kind of get the gyp on this, right?
Well, we make a big deal out of those two holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day. We make a big deal out of Mother's Day. And the joke is always fathers get ties.
Yes. And I get that. But then I thought about it. I was like, wait a second. Men feel like they get gypped, but you guys are really the ones that get more gifts. I was thinking about not only your girlfriend, I was thinking like your girlfriend was probably going to come to the station yesterday because you guys had talked at one point and it sounded like she was going to come to the station. So I thought internally she's going to bring Scott something.
Oh,
She just always does.
She
like a
brought
little-
you something too.
Totally. Like a little snack, little treat, little something. And then I was like, wait a second. Here's the thing. You guys feel like you get gypped, but we are the ones that I feel like, or maybe it's always, because I don't think this is necessarily for heterosexual relationships either. I think this goes for like all relationships. One person is constantly just like picking something up. So if I go to the gas station, I know that Zach likes this cherry Gatorade. So then I will get him the cherry Gatorade. So I'm like, wait a second. In all reality, I know he's making a big deal because like I make a big deal about my birthday and getting gifts and yada, yada, yada. But I'm like, he gets more gifts because I'm the one who is always thinking about him whenever I go to do something small like that.
I'm going to tell you, I think it is more the sexes.
Okay.
So think about, and I can't, say how this would be in a non-heterosexual relationship. So, forgive me. I mean, you got to come up with your own explanation on that. However, I can tell you in a hetero relationship, here's the way I think it plays out. And you're right. And you're right because guys need to open their eyes about something. Women will, throughout the course of time, let's say a year, they think about things. They think about you and the little things more often.
Yes.
Great example. 6059, when she comes here, she's always got a Diet Coke for Allie in hand.
Yes.
And one of my iced tea and lemonade mixes from McDonald's. I'm serious. Like this is a thing. If she comes to the studio, she always brings the Diet Coke for you. So I think the women think more of the small day-to-day type things.
Yes, that's my point.
And the guys get stuck. It's not that we're not thinking about you, but again, I think this pulls back to the old school mentality of we're the men, we must hunt, gather, and provide for the family. Well, but it's true because we're out thinking like, well, these are the things that I'm doing. I'm out mowing the lawn. I'm doing all these. I'm not saying a woman can't mow a lawn. My God, you might mow straighter than me.
I am the mower, which I want to talk about this on the show. We'll do it soon.
You know what I mean, though.
Yes,
Let's just play the stereotypical roles for a couple seconds here.
And I'm also the better griller, but that's here.
Come on over. But you know what I'm saying? Like if you play it out with some of the, and it doesn't have to be 100% stereotypical, but think about it that way for a little bit. We've always been brought up thinking, I'm bringing home a whole friggin' deer. I'm going to feed the house for the next, 2 weeks. We've got meat.
Yes.
I plowed the fields so we can have salads for, whatever.
Yes.
But those things, and women think smaller day to day.
Yeah.
If us guys would look at the small things and add them up, oh God, yeah, you give us way more gifts. Every Wednesday night at 9:00, that appointment for the that's a gift that keeps on giving.
All right.
But you know what I mean? Like that, I think that's where the difference comes in.
Yes, exactly. And I want you to I want everybody who's listening to just see it.
So what happens is, you getting the pampering day, the day left alone, you're out with, whatever the case may be, even though you all think we just want time with our kids or alone time. The reality to it is you're getting this little bit more grandiose thing because you think, us guys think, well, shit, I better make this look good.
Right.
Or I'm going to hear about it for the next year to come, or maybe 2, where in reality, if we did what you did every single day,
You would get way more beaters.
Wednesday night, 9:00. But so
I'm sleeping, but
do you need to be conscious? No. That was inappropriate, but funny.
I love it.
But that being
Well,
said,
good. I'm glad you're getting it.
Don't get me
so
wrong.
next time you go to the gas station, which we're going to one today.
Yeah, I know. I'll buy you a goddamn Diet Coke.
No, don't buy it for me. Buy something for her. I don't need you.
The ice would melt by the time she got home. She works till like 8:00 at night. What am I going to do? Buy her a bag of chips?
Yes. Think of what are her favorite chips? What's her favorite candy bar? What's her favorite? Whatever. Something.
Oh, she is a snacker.
Exactly. All right. And he's a burper.
Yeah.
I want you to do that today. We were at the gas station. We were at the gas station yesterday.
Yeah, this isn't going to count. You're telling me. I need to think of it myself.
I know, but if you kind of get in, and it's not like you have to do it every time. It's that I find myself doing it. Okay, this is a great example.
What you're saying is 100% right, by the way.
I went away for the weekend with some girlfriends. We actually talked about it on the last podcast. So we were in, I don't know, Callicoon, New York. I don't even know where we were, to be honest with you.
You were in a town named after a cat.
I think
Calico, New York.
I think it's Callicoon, New York.
Callicoon.
I
Now
think
that
so.
sounds like it'd be in North
So-
Carolina. Callicoon.
Callicoon. So we were at a distillery, and I ended up buying Zach. They had these maple bourbon chocolates, and he loves bourbon. He loves sweets. So I got him like
Hates
a couple.
maple.
Yeah, right. So I got him.
That's where it would fail for
right?
you.
Oh my God.
Loves bourbon.
hates maple.
Hates
So I got him a couple little like small boxes of chocolates. It's things like that as soon as I walked in the door, I was like, oh, I have a gift for you. It was just something small that I thought about. I mean, don't get me wrong. I got some bourbon and some gin too, but that's there.
And you like maple, so you got that fucking candy too.
Yeah.
Well-
Wait, so what's the Heather thing?
Oh, I'll tell you that in a minute. So finishing off the thing.
okay.
So yes, for a guy where we always feel like we're being let down on that, the Father's Day holiday, it's because as guys, remember, I told you, hunter, provider, all that for the family. We're thinking always big. Oh, got to be a 70-inch, can't be a 50-inch TV. That's what it is. That's where the mentality comes in that we get screwed over.
Not realizing that I've been bringing you Gatorade
You got it.
and Snickers all year long.
And moral to the story, if you start thinking, guys, of smaller gifts throughout the year on a continual basis for your woman, you can save a lot of money on that mani-pedi that you were going to give her for Mother's Day.
That's right. Exactly.
All right. Now,
Okay, Heather
so
thing.
What were we talking about on the show? Okay, on the show. And
What?
if you guys didn't know this, you can go to anywhere on demand that you catch your favorite podcasts. Or in this case, I always like to tell people, go to iHeart, because you can pick between the Scott and Allie Show, which is pretty much every segment of the show, worth a piss.
Yeah.
And obviously the Not Fair podcast, which you're here right now. But I love sometimes when, I can point you to this. And this was a segment we had done about body defects and if they're deal breakers for a relationship.
Yes.
And we were talking things like, well, what if somebody had, like, say, a brown and a blue eye, like they were a husky, but a human being?
Yes,
And
or the outie belly button.
the outie belly button. And these were just, things like that. And one of them, we ended up getting to the unibrow. Do you remember the unibrow?
Yes, and I said no problem.
Which then, yes, because you want to put the woman's touch on it, and it's something to pluck, pick, poke. I know all you women, the 3 Ps, pluck, pick,
exactly
poke. Yep.
right.
So that
Do you
being
have back knee? Call me.
Oh, there you go. So, and then it moved to the back, and I was baldness was the next one, because remember that was the next on the list, and I said, well, we're just going to move past baldness. Is that a deal breaker? And you're like, what do you mean move past baldness? And I'm like, nah, let's just keep going. So, all that being said, I had made the joke very quickly in passing, and I go, yeah, well, I just can't grow hair on my head. And then you came back with, but boy, you should see his back. So, this is typical Scott and Allie, right? I mean, if we get open the door, we're going to make fun of each other all day long, and it's not
Yes.
bullying, you son of a bitch. But that
It's
being
not
said,
what?
bullying.
Oh, bullying.
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Coming
not.
full circle.
Oddly with us,
There's
it's
the
not.
callback. Okay.
So then Heather, and we never read this text on the air, and I got to ask if this is true.
What?
Heather texts and she goes, if a guy has hairy knuckles or hairy toes or both, he's guaranteed to have a hairy back. Is that a thing?
Okay, the
she
toe
said it's a
thing-
guarantee.
The toe thing, I don't know.
Do I have hairy knuckles?
The other thing is too, and I did see this text and I completely forgot about it. Sometimes we get so many texts that I can't get to all of them.
It's the primary
She
way
sa-
a lot of people communicate with the show. Everybody's busy.
Yes, and she had said something about like if you can see it like coming out of the shirt, like on the neck.
Oh, well, that's different. That's
not here on the chest. I'm talking about on the back.
on the back too. Well, that's a guarantee. Obviously, you have a hairy back if it's coming out the back of your shirt.
I know, but that is like really hairy and almost to the point of like that's too much for me.
Well, right, but
And I love hairy backs.
but I gotta ask: is that true? If you got hair on your
But I don't want it to seem like I don't want it to be. I can't tell if you have a hairy neck or a mullet.
I give you that, yeah.
Okay, what now?
No, and you're right. There is a difference between, okay, that's just your natural, the way
Hair.
your body works.
Yeah.
But is there truth? Hairy knuckles and hairy toes equal a hairy back.
Hairy knuckles, yes, I think
Be
so.
cautious because you have a hairy toe.
Oh yeah, for sure. I probably have hair on my back. I absolutely, for sure. I mean, hairy toe. Does that hairy toe equal hairy nipples? In my case, yes.
Oh, and the one that grows overnight that's suddenly that long. You're like, ow.
I know.
It went Tuesday to Wednesday and I grew 4 inches of nipple hair.
Tell me about
Ow.
it. Tell me about it.
God.
Yeah, the one thing I'm gonna normalize. I have gotten electrolysis on my nipples. I am normalizing the fact that
Is that with
yes,
a car battery and a couple jumper cables? Like,
yes.
what? How does that work?
I have had some problem nipple hairs that
Problem nipple hair.
Yes. So whenever I go and get my electrolysis done, I'm like, hold on, let me
Hey,
take my bra off.
get them things down here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
zap those suckers. So,
I mean, at the same time, they're also eliminating the hairy toe because they're all the way down there, so it works.
I never tell her to do that on my toe, and I probably should.
Just let my saggy titty joke go.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Do you want to say it again?
Nope. Nope. If you didn't get it, go back and listen to the podcast. Have you really had her do the toe, though?
No, I said I haven't.
Oh, you haven't.
That's something I should have her do. I mean, she's already there. I mean, she's gotten my chin before.
Yeah.
She's gotten my nipples before. Why not? I mean, this woman has seen more of me besides my vajay waxer. She has seen more of me than most people in the Twin Tiers.
You know, I want to point out there's actually a large number of people that have begun to see Allie Payne.
Two people.
No, I'm going to go another step. So you've got your electrolysis person.
Yep.
You've got
My Brazilian waxer.
your Brazilian waxer. You've
Yep.
got your dermatologist, who I remember you telling me did the head to toe.
That's right.
So,
I forgot. Yes,
yep.
they check everything too.
That's right. Zach,
Dr. Rodriguez. Yep.
You know, you can't forget about him. I'm
Yep.
sure he's seen you at least had the toe, unless you wear socks, in which case, whatever. Be a freak if you want.
Right. Actually, I wear one of those paper panties. Never mind.
Okay. So really, you know, good for you for getting around.
Right. 3 women, 1 man.
It's working
It's
great.
a great track record.
Oh, God. All right. Well, you guys ponder that. Hairy knuckles, hairy toes equal a guaranteed hairy back. I don't know. That's what she says. On that note, are we good?
We're good. We'll
All right.
see ya. Bye.
Well, that was fun. Wasn't that fun? That was fun. Do us a favor, will you? Subscribe. Share the Scott and Allie Not for Air podcast. Touch our buttons. We know you want to.